Right. Good morning, team. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right. I'm going to. Today is my first day creating what I'm calling the credenda articles of truth for NBL business. Okay. So in our first credenda of article of truth today, this is what we're going to be calling these situations from now on. This way, you guys can understand the difference between a team training call and something that you need to know versus a credenda article of truth, which is one about principles. Okay, and so all the credendas and articles of truth, they'll be under the IM. I'm sorry, not is it is it IM? Yeah, it'll be under IM Business Pro. They'll be under the IM Business Pro thumbnail, so that you guys can actually understand the difference. And we've been splitting the other recordings up as according to where they belong. Like 24/7 Club have 24/7 thumbnails. Pull the trigger, got pull the trigger thumbnails. Anything about the chapters or nation, got either the building or our organizational chart thumbnails. Things like that, okay? And so these are the business blueprint credendas, articles of truth, principles, and it'll have the NBL business blueprint credenda on there on the as the thumbnail. Okay, so just so you understand the difference between which content goes to which group or level of operation that you're in. And so with that being said, without further ado, I want to jump on here and discuss in our first article of truth the difference between high risk and low risk. Let's get started. Question: have you ever been like in a dark room and then you lifted the blind and then all of a sudden the light comes on and you can see because it's daylight outside? So even though the room was dark, when you lift the blind, light came in and you can see because it was daylight outside. Okay? The difference between low risk and high risk is like lifting the blind so you can see in that daylight inside. Because as entrepreneurs, when we begin in this world or this roller coaster thought process, saying to ourselves, we're going to become ultra successful and we're going to win. And based on what I see and can experience, I know it's doable. But then when we start implementing what we learn based on who is teaching it to us, that light starts to dim and that daylight turns to darkness, literally. And then you find yourself going down this deep, dark road of hope, wishing, hoping, praying that a breakthrough someday happens. And so and I would liken that to being in a high risk place of business. That's where you are. You're in a high risk place of business, meaning you have limited knowledge on executing well enough in order to change your financial stature to something more enjoyable that you would agree upon. And if you are high risk and you don't understand the components, the pieces, or the know-how on how to give yourself the opportunity to succeed, becoming successful remains a dim light in the dark. Okay? So I implore you to lift the blinds and learn low risk, because that is going to allow your light to shine through that dark place and put you in a better space as a self-employed, self-made person. Okay? And so what is the difference between high risk and low risk, and why does that effect occur? Ultimately, principalities. Okay, we're talking about the principle of this thing. Ultimately, the principle is a high risk entrepreneur take unnecessary chances And a low-risk entrepreneur doesn't. Let me give you a better way, because that's on the layman's term situation. Let me make this sound a little bit better. A high-risk entrepreneur do things. A low-risk entrepreneur do things by the book. Okay? Let me give it to you a better way. A high-risk entrepreneur pays attention to details. A high-risk entrepreneur do not pay attention to the details. A low-risk entrepreneur pays attention to the details. And it doesn't make a difference if you're high risk or low risk. Paying attention to the details is the way to operate in any circumstance if you're being self-employed, because it's going to keep you protected, okay? Let me give it to you the final way so you can understand. And I wanted to say it all 4 ways because people think differently, okay? And so the last way is a high-risk entrepreneur don't care nothing about quality assurance or quality control, and a low-risk entrepreneur cares everything about quality assurance and quality control. So that's the final principle. Okay, so when you think about yourself operating in the world of entrepreneurship, self-employment arena, right, as a self-employed professional, need it be licensed, you licensed, and you got your real estate license or your insurance license, or you have some type of trade license that you had to actually pay for and go to school and get this continued education, okay, or you're not certified, you're not licensed, or whatever the case may be. The question becomes, when you think about your work as an entrepreneur, do you think about quality assurance, quality control? Do you think about what I mean by quality assurance? Meaning, are you staying in compliance with the rules that apply to corporations, entities, sole proprietorships, LLCs, LLPs, LPs? Are you paying attention to the rules with staying in compliance that applies? Are you paying attention to it? Because for one, if you are paying attention to it, you will not be struggling. Okay, that's the first thing. And so a high-risk entrepreneur don't think about that part, not even a little bit. All right, so I would say a high-risk entrepreneur don't think about that. A high-risk direct response salesperson is not going to think about that. So every time he go to run an advertisement inside of a campaign that requires you to think about that, his ads can't get approved. A high-risk entrepreneur is not going to think about that. So every time he goes to open up a merchant account and try to get merchant money into his account, the merchant keeps freezing his accounts because he's not paying attention to that. Make sense, guys? And so if you are a high-risk entrepreneur and you're not paying attention to the quality assurance and the details that it takes in order to stay in compliance, 90% of the time, we're harming ourselves and making ourselves stay stuck, especially if we're not even thinking about that part. A low-risk entrepreneur starts from the very beginning because we understand, and let me stop saying entrepreneur because in order to be, everyone's an entrepreneur, but in order to be an effective entrepreneur, you have to be a professional. And so you could be out here working like a self-employed professional, or you could be out here working like a self-employed amateur or work-at-home amateur who isn't employed at all. Okay? Work-at-home amateur. A self-employed professional gets paid every day, several times a day, understands his business, follows quality assurance, quality control, and does everything in his power to stay in compliance. They understand systematic processes. They understand protocols. They understand templates, and they understand frameworks and execution. So when they go to implement these things, they actually receive a result. A high-risk entrepreneur is not thinking about any of those things. They're thinking about hustling. They're thinking about volume. They're thinking about taking massive action, and they're hoping to make money. They aren't in compliance, which means they don't have any credentials. They don't have a proper business account or a proper merchant account set up. They're 9 times out of 10 accepting affiliate commissions or 1099 pay systems, and they're waiting for money at all times. They're waiting for money from their job. They're waiting for money from the commission structures that they got set up. They're waiting for money from the network marketing company stuff that they sell, from the affiliate marketing products they sell. And if they have anything that they're selling on their own, right? Sales are sporadic. You get a sale every now and again. Oh, I got one. I got another one. And so if you're experiencing any of those high risk symptoms, that's because you're operating in a high risk zone. Okay. And so the purpose of an NBL business advisory firm, one of our local NSEDC licensing center and testing facility, NSEDC, NBL Self-Employment Development Center. When you go into one of these local testing facilities, as a self-employed person, either you're a work-at-home amateur or you're in high risk, okay, or you're a work-at-home professional in low risk or semi-low risk. Okay, semi-low risk. Professionalism means low risk, which means that I didn't go to Google and say how to make money from home and then try to superficially sell somebody something that isn't going to work. Instead, I went to my government chambers of commerce building and said I wanted to be a realtor. They sent me to this certification building and said, get your license. And then once you do that, you can come work over here in this Century 21 or Remax facility, and we'll be your parent company backing you. Make sure you do good. Okay. So they actually went and got a trade, right? Or a person to say, hey, you know what? I want to be a truck driver and I got to go into my testing facility and get my CDLs. Or a person say, you know what? I want to be an insurance guy and I got to go into a testing facility and get my insurance license. That's a self-employed professional who has a trade and is semi low risk. Why? Because they done defeated half the battle. They got certified. So that's the first thing, okay? Now, here's where we go wrong and we don't become low risk because we don't think about it like this. What is your entity doing? Like, do you have an entity behind your money or do you have you behind your money? If you have you behind your money and someone sues you, something happens to you, things out of uncontrolled, unforeseen circumstances can occur that you can't control. And if something happens to you, 9 times out of 10, something happens to your money. So you want to detach you from your liability. You want to detach the liability of you and your money. You want to separate those things. And in order to separate that, you need to build an entity around your money. You need to build an entity around your money. Now, when I opened up my several entities around my money, it's for my money. When my mom gave me my Social Security number, when I was a teenager, that was for my personal. So I don't put my personal in my entity unless I'm an employee of my entity and I'm paying myself a salary. But my entity money is for my entity. And so the first step to becoming low risk is, do you have a valid low risk entity classified correctly using your NAICS code? The code the IRS gives everyone who gets an employer identification number, EIN number, employer identification number. So if you got an LLC, limited liability corporation, coupled with an EIN, employee identification number, employer identification number, that means technically, really, if you wanted to be, you can go hire someone, put them on a W-2 payroll or 1099 contractor role, and pay them legally in the United States of America, because they will have your employer identification number. They can take it right down to any situation, any person, and say, you know what? I work for this corporation that has this employer identification number, and anybody in the world that plugs that into a system like SBFE, Small Business Financial Exchange, Dun & Bradstreet Credit Bureau like DNB, right? Experian for Business, Equifax for Business, like something like that, then guess what happens? Your corporate profile populates and come up. That's what happens, guys. And so the first step to becoming low risk is to make sure that you have a corporation set up, an entity for your money that's outside of yourself. And if you don't have this type of corporation set up for yourself, and you're thinking like, I don't care nothing about quality assurance or quality control in the United States of America, and I'm going to ignore that fact and go make as much money as I can, right? You can be thinking like that. Or you may be thinking, you know what? When I make enough money to care about those things, then I'll worry about it. But right now I'm too desperate and I'm struggling to make money, so it's not going to matter until later on down the line. And I'm going to argue the fact that if you, like, let's, for instance, take somebody from my team. I don't want to give you a hypothetical scenario, okay? So who do I want to use? Let's use well, I'm not going to say any names. Let's just use, because everybody do the same thing, right? So for instance, on my team, the first step that you want to do is get your Low-Risk LLC. That's the first thing. Your Low-Risk LLC, we call it a Low-Risk LLC because it comes with a low-risk classification code. It comes with a low-risk name. It comes with a low-risk EIN number and NAICS code. Okay, it comes with low-risk credentials like a merchant, like a bank account, and like all of these low-risk items. And you also get low-risk trade lines to start so that you are never denied if you need to borrow any type of money from start. Okay. The myth of the world is that business credit, you have to build it like you do personal credit. No, you don't. You got to build personal credit. Business credit is already perfect. The problem why people can't get business credit is because you don't understand the green lights that you need to have on your EIN, your employee identification number, when it's ran through a system to get you an approval. And if you have all of those items that's required for an approval, when you get your EIN set up, you'll automatically never get denied. You'll never get denied. But the problem is we don't understand those components. We don't understand what we should do. Therefore, we ignore that part. We don't even think about it 90% of the time. It's too complicated, or we'll get to it later when we start making some money. Okay? Low risk is how you start with money. This is why we teach you to get 20K in 14 days. Put some money on your Dun & Bradstreet account. This way, when you go into the bank and you say, I need some more money, and they pull your EIN number, is not blank. Who want to be the first to give somebody money? Right? I don't want to do that if I'm the bank. I want to give somebody this money that somebody already gave money to. That means that somebody trusts you, or that means that somebody seen that you had the green light special and they gave you money because you had that. And if you don't have that as an entrepreneur, then we're out here hustling to get sales and hustling to get money. And 9 times out of 10, that's working sporadically. So you're spending everything, your whole entire lifestyle is coming out of your paycheck money. And the government touching that before you even get it, because again, you're under your Social Security number. So low down on the tax bracket, the government got to touch it before you even touch it. When you just separate your corporate, you just get an entity for your money, okay? And you understand low risk. Now you're in a position where as though any money you put into this corporation, you don't have to touch it. I mean, they can't touch it until you tell them what that money is supposed to be used for. They can't touch it at all. They got to sit there and wait on you. But then they'll force you to tell them what it's for, saying things like you have till this amount of time to file your taxes, or you have till this amount of time to put in your corporate information, right? And then we got to tell them. So, but they can't just take it from us like they do an employee, because we are the employer. And our money is not income, it's revenue. So the second thing when it comes to understanding high risk is, are you an income junkie or are you a revenue junkie? Do you chase income around or are you chasing revenue? High risk entrepreneurs don't even think about that part because they don't understand it. They don't know what cash flow is. They only understand commissions, W-2, 1099, under the table, phrases that liabilities, SSN, can only be privy to, can only be a part of. That's the bracket where they can touch your money without you even having control. That's the bracket where they can take the taxes that you're supposed to get back without you even having control. That's the bracket that child support dips into, for my gentleman out there that's struggling with child support. That's the bracket, okay, that garnishes your check when you go to court and you get sued. And these things aren't your fault. But if we don't understand that we are playing in a high risk zone, and to eliminate anybody touching your money, all you got to do is become low risk. So while we out here doing everything else under the sun, keep studying Dan Kennedy marketing. Keep studying the Russell Brunson funnels. Keep studying the Tony Robbins motivation. Keep studying the Grant Cardone investment strategies. And keep trying to be the social media master like Gary Vaynerchuk. And as you will continue to play in a high risk zone. Or are they playing in a high risk zone? You just don't know that they're in a low risk zone because no one talks about that part. But if you go onto Google and you put up Edison LLC and look for how many corporations that own, you'll see that Russell plays low risk. He has entities for every piece of money he makes. You'll see Dan Kennedy plays at low risk. He has entities for every piece of money he makes. And any guru you can name that you follow, if they understand low risk, this is just something that the industry doesn't talk about. Why? Because if you are a self-employed professional and you started the correct way, like going down your Chamber of Commerce versus like an amateur going on Google, then the Chamber of Commerce would have gave you a packet that explained all of these things to you. But we don't operate like that in the world of entrepreneurship if we don't have a professional education backing us. We don't know to think like that because we have too many advertisements hitting us every day, shaping our mind to consumerism thoughts and implementation and all of these things. And then my final point on high risk versus low risk, guys, right, is as a low risk entrepreneur, you help others do it the right way. You learn it through and through. You practice it through and through. Okay? And you help others do it the right way. But what are you practicing? Okay? You say, Larry, well, how do I make more money? What am I practicing? How this all thing come together if I really take the road to high risk? Because me and Alicia discovered, right, on the team, we discovered that in his journey of being low risk, and as he was going through the process of putting his green lights in place, everything that you need in order to grab unlimited cash flow without getting denied and without selling anything, while he putting his green lights together, we started discovering, because he was in New York, right? I'm located, while I was in Florida at the time. Then I moved back up north to Baltimore. Then I moved over to Pennsylvania, and it's like each state has different bylaws for different corporations. Every state has a different bylaw. Have you ever heard of a bylaw for your corporation? Okay, well, states have different bylaws for different corporations, and each state has a bank inside of a state. And so when you become low risk and you go inside of your bank and you started doing these activities we call money plays, right? You start doing money plays, and you can do the money plays with, if you got a revenue system coming in, if you got income, we show you how to turn your income into revenue. And then over a while, like 3 to 6 months, you'll be out of debt, completely financially free. All of these things. It's called money plays, right? We're playing the side of money, not the side of marketing. You're failing because you're on the side of marketing. You don't understand money, right? But if you understood money, then your marketing would enhance itself. But that's a lesson that we don't care about, because we play in the high risk zone. Make sense, guys? So understand revenue versus income, and you'll be okay. And so when you get the credentials and you're low risk classified, right, based on your state and who you bank with, and based on the money plays that we show you how to execute, then banks, SBFE, Dun & Bradstreet, and every investor or every person that has money, it's called OPM money, petty cash. You ever heard of petty cash? Like corporations say, you know what? Take some petty cash and go buy the wardrobes for all the people down in the 5th floor. We're going to need that to happen. And they go right in the drawer, get the petty cash out. Well, that petty cash is coming from EIN revenue that they getting for doing money plays, and business bank that they done built a relationship with because they bank love them. Okay? And each bank is different. And so we get these different types of options, these different types of instruments, bank assets, and all of these things that help us grow money. help us become better at everything we do. Okay. And so as a low-risk entrepreneur, a low-risk self-employed professional, or low-risk in general, you understand money through and through, and you know how to save it in such a way that makes it grow exponentially and even pays you without you doing anything or being there. Okay. And so that's what high risk is in a nutshell. And if you're operating as a high risk entrepreneur, you can clearly see why now. I hope you can clearly see why. I really do. If you're operating as a low risk entrepreneur, then you are on a trajectory of excitement and flawlessness. That's what you're on the trajectory of. And you have no gripe. You don't feel stress. Okay. I have people on my team say, hey, Larry, first time I put $10,000 in my bank. Hey, Larry, first time I had $5,000. Hey, Larry, I just say $20,000 this month. That's amazing. I've never seen my bank account look like that. Why do you think this is? Because they're operating in a low risk zone. Okay. I don't teach people to make money. I teach people to dominate their life, control you. Okay. If I got to wake up with less than I went to bed, if I got to wake up in the morning with less money in my bank account than I had when I went to sleep last night, then there is something broke and it needs to be fixed. If I have to go out here and use my hands, feet, arms, toes, and legs to make money in order for me to feed my family, pay my mortgage, pay my rent, pay my car notes, make sure I'm good on my bills, that's too much work, and there is something broke that needs to be fixed. There are two types of people in this world. You are a person who makes money with your labor, or you are a person who understands the power of the pen. Get with NBL business, guys, because that road is less traveled and far easier. The NBL business blueprints, articles of truth, credendas. I'm out. Peace.